So in today's video I'm going to take you around the homestead. I'm going to show you exactly what fruit trees we grow in the ground, and because of limited of space that we have in our garden, we then grow the majority of our fruit trees in pots or containers. First one is our goji berry bush, and we've got it in a square box like this. It's a raised bed, pit double raised bed, and this guy really goes totally crazy. It goes to sleep in winter, so you just see all these little branches with no leaves, but now it's come back in big force, and you can see that it is filled with leaves. It even started budding, flowering, and we even got some fruit on it already. But it's doing amazing in this container, and this will be, I think, the third year having it in a container, and absolutely no problem with this. We'll swing around to our green Granny Smith apple, and it's doing very well. We gave it a nice prune in late winter, and the new growth is starting, and that is just so that the energy can focus on the new growth and then the flowers, then the fruit. It was way too top heavy and too high, so we also gave it a nice trim. And we have a whole bunch of flowers that we decided to put in all the pots so that it attracts beautiful insects like bees and pollinators, so they can get to the flowers easily. And we've got this in, I think this is about a 25 to 30 liter pot, and just make sure it's got really nice drainage holes at the bottom. The soil, you need to make sure that it's really good drainage soil. You don't want the water just sitting in the pot, it will rot the roots. And this will be the third year having our tree in a container pot. It's doing very well. Last year it gave us over 20 green apples. We have the Gala red apple in this, so that was the green Granny Smith. This is the Gala red, and I think in the 3 years that having this tree I've only had one red apple. I see it has started to already flower, and we also gave this a nice prune, chopped it at the top so it can focus on new leaves and new branches. And it's exactly the same method we did with that. It's a 25-30 liter pot with our apple tree in there. Going to the hothouse, I have a fig tree. So in the garden we do have 2 fig trees. Don't know what variety it is. It was gifted to us by my mother-in-law, and we put them in the ground, and all I know is that it is small little figs, very juicy, and it's different to this variety. So this is called a fig Adam, and we've also got it in a 25 liter pot container. And this is the first year having it. I bought it when it had already fruited, and that I don't even think it fruited because it was still young. But this year it's woken up, given me a whole bunch of new branches on here. I did give it a small little trim, not a big one, and I've already got little figs on this variety. Don't see any figs on these 2, so I'm very interested to see what kind of figs. I know there's also small little figs. So over here in 25 liter pots we have our berries, and we've got a whole bunch of different varieties. So this lane, I call it my berry alley, and I've got all my berries here. This one is the young berry, so it is a hybrid, and it is between a raspberry and a blackberry, and I've never ever grown it before. This is my first year. I missed the fruiting season last year. I think we bought this in February. So it loses all its leaves in winter. It came back. We actually thought it had died, but it didn't. And it is already budded and flowered. And so I'm expecting some fruit. So I'll show you. That's the bud. That is the flower. And this is a climber, so it will need something like a trellis. That's why I've got it here. We have 2 raspberries here. And raspberries are more like bush. Moving across here, we have our blueberries. So this is our late harvest blueberry, and I actually thought this guy was going to die, but it came back very nicely, and it has a whole bunch of blueberries on here. Oh, it's stunning. And we did the same method when it came to potting them. So if you cannot afford a pot like this, which is like a ceramic pot, you go this route with the plastic container pots. And if you can't afford that, you go the cheapest route, which is another container, but it's the one that you get the lid and the handle. And all you do is that you make really nice big drainage holes and take the lid and the handle off, and you put your trees or your plants in here, and it works perfectly. So I've got 3 of my berries in a pot like that, and I think I've actually got my olive tree in a pot like this, and it works absolutely fine as long as you got really good drainage. And then we've got the 4 legacy blueberries. They're all in containers. You come down here, and then you've got your early season berry, also in a cheap container that I bought, one with the handle and lid. Got 2 of them in here. And guys, growing things in containers is easy. You are able to do it. Check the berries that I've got on here. It's filled with berries, so yeah, it doesn't need to look pretty and expensive. This does the job pretty well. I'm going to swing over here. Got a curry bush tree in a smaller pot actually. So this is probably what, a 15 liter, 10-15 liter. Doing fine. Yes, swing over here. Okay, berries, strawberries we've got in a container there. The gooseberry. This is how the gooseberry actually started. Just found a gooseberry growing, and I've never ever taken it out. So it is actually in a metal tin, and I think that metal tin is about a 15 liter. And you swing over here, and we have our cherry. So this is a Lapin cherry, 3rd year having it. We got it in a 25-30 liter pot, and there's some cherries there. It's the 1st year fruiting. I'm not expecting great results with the fruit because it's the first time fruiting, but I know next year will be better. With this, we've just got some potting soil, and I just put fertilizer pellets in here, give it a good water, and that's it. Every 3 months we give it liquid fertilizer, and I think twice a year make sure it is topped up with some slow releasing pellets, and the same as all the other fruit trees that we've got. So we come to the bigger pots. I think it's about a 60 liter pot. I'm not 100% sure, but I have a Caracal orange tree in here. It's a dwarf variety, and we have oranges. So when it budded and it opened its flowers, it looked like jasmine flowers. It smelled beautiful, like I can't explain the fragrance. and then the flowers fell off, and then we were left with a whole bunch of little baby oranges. And I'm quite amazed. I bought this tree in February, first time it is fruiting, and I have oranges, which I'm absolutely happy about. And then these are some just new trees that we just bought last week. I have on Instagram a story about this little fellow. So last year in December I went to Cyprus to go visit my sister, and we came across a tree that had nachis and oranges, all sorts of oranges. That's how I was introduced to the caracara. And I saw something called a pomelo. Never had one, fell in love, and brought the seeds back home, and I planted it, and now I've got 2 beautiful pomelo trees out of the 4 seeds 2 took, and I've still got loads of seeds left. And then a custard apple tree that was gifted. We were gifted 2. They're not doing pretty well. They've woken up. The leaves are very slow in developing, so I'm not really sure if it's not happy in a pot. It's got really good compost in that, so we'll just have to monitor it. And then in this pot, the 60-litre as well, I have the nectarine tree. So it's also the 3rd year. Nectarine trees are the first trees to wake up and give you fruits in late winter, early spring. And it takes a while for them to actually mature, but I would say there's like over 50 nectarines on this tree. When it gets to I would say a golf ball size, that's when we'll start wrapping them up in cloth so that the birds don't get to it, because trust me, the birds will have a feast in one day. And then we've got our plum tree in this pot. So 3rd year having the plum tree. It's never ever fruited, but this year it flowered and we saw the very first fruits. So it takes roughly 3 to 4 years when you buy a plant, depending on how old it is already. It takes about 3 to 4 years for it to give you fruits, and that's how we've learned that this tree is about 3 years old, because it's the first time it's fruited. So guys, that is our trees in pots. They are normally against a wall or a windy house, so it doesn't really take too much space, and you are able to trim it if you want to, but it doesn't need to be in the ground. If I swing around here, we've got the fig trees, and they are in the ground, and they kind of like give you loads of figs. So I gave it a nice trim, and I actually don't see any figs like the other fig tree. And we'll probably start getting figs at the end of the month, little baby figs. But yeah, and just to show you guys something, it's going off the topic. We have baby chickens. How cute is that? So that's our youngest. It's Boots, and she was broody and she laid on some eggs. We didn't really think much of it, and out of nowhere, out of 4 eggs, 3 hatched. The day after, we incubated some chicken eggs as well, and they were born, and a day later Boots' babies were born. So Boots has accepted all the babies that were in the incubator, and the one in the incubator, 1 or 2 of them did belong to her, and so we're chuffed. We've got 7 new little baby chicks. Move on to the homestead. So the homestead, we've got our stuff in raised beds, and the reason for that, You know, you can have raised beds or you can have them in the ground. I wouldn't mind having it in the ground and have the no dig till method, but unfortunately I can't because I have dogs and the dogs will just have a field time in it. So that is why I've opted in raised beds, and everything does very well. So we've got our grape tree. It's a red seedless grapevine in the raised bed. 2 pomegranate plants in the ground. So when we first moved here, we didn't know what the layout was going to be. We actually had this is actually how I started, was 2 raised beds on the ground over there, just like longwoods, and it did absolutely very well. Added 2 more, and then we decided, you know what, let's see if we can't just move the raised beds where the hothouse were, and it looked really, really nice. Unfortunately, how the sun fell and the tree shaded the place, it was not working for us. We then brought the homestead back this side, but decided to put it along the wall last year. And I think last year, for the very first time, we were actually happy and decided that is where we are going to build the homestead. So that's a little story from our side, how the homestead started. Told you the story about how we started, and when we did start, obviously these boxes along the wall weren't there, and we planted, I think the first thing we planted was our lemon tree. It belongs to my sister-in-law and it was gifted to her by a friend, so it means something to her. And we thought, oh, let's put it in the ground. We've moved it twice and it took a really bad hit, and it's taken nearly 2 years for it to actually come back, so we're not going to move that again. But we also at the same time planted 2 pomegranate trees, and we didn't know we were going to have the boxes behind it, so this was not planned. But I don't want to really move the pomegranate tree, so we're going to work around it and then just trim it so that we can walk through here. But it seems to be working, and yeah, pomegranate trees can get really, really big, so just be careful where you plant it and make sure you've got a plan of your garden or what you want to do, because once you've planted it and you move it, it will take a long time for it to recover, just like our lemon tree took a long time to recover. We actually thought it had died down, but it has growth this year, and even though it is obstructing the pathway, we are definitely not taking this out. And then yeah, our banana tree came back, which is a blessing. It took a really bad hit in the winter. It's looking a bit sad because it's a bit dry, so I just need to sort this bed out. Over there we have some turmeric that I did see there were some heads coming up. And then I've got in either 10 or 15 litre pot here. I've got something called another pomegranate, but it's called an 8-ball, and it seems to be doing very well, as well as my Maya lemon tree. So the Maya lemon tree I actually grew from seed, and this will be the going, I think, just over 2 years I've had it, and it's doing pretty well. I brought it to the end here to give it some sun. We'll swing over here. Got some pineapples that's been there for the last, I think, 3 years now. And then corn. So I don't really have space to put corn, and decided to put it in a container. I actually saw someone do this. The container was a little bit bigger, but it's working, and from seeds until now it has actually grown very nicely. So this year I'm just experimenting. Next year it will be better. But yeah, that is what we are able to grow in the ground and what we are able to grow in pots to make things work for us. So guys, this is the homestead, and thank you so much for letting me take you around and showing you exactly what we are able to grow, especially in pots if you do not have the space. So even if you're in a small space, a small garden, a balcony, there is ways you can grow. You can grow vertically, you can grow in pots, in raised beds. So I'm hoping that this video was helpful to you, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe so you don't miss any of our other videos, and we will see you in the next video.